Well, Tom, I was sitting up at the top of the MCG in a corporate suite, and I've been lucky to play at the MCG in some memorable moments. But one that's ingrained in my mind is that last Saturday in September in 2016. Now, I don't want to start there. I want to go back a little bit. I want to go back to when you decided that you were going to leave the Giants and go to the Bulldogs.
Yeah, really simple. They offered me $7 million to come back and play for a club that was in a very different position. But I think, to your point, these big games and big moments that we see that are highlights for years to come, they obviously start on a journey long, long before. I mean, it had been 62 years since the Bulldogs had won a premiership, and I'd obviously come from a club that had just started. It was right in its inception. To walk in to a club that not only had offered me this big contract, but really was in turmoil at the time. And then within, 6 weeks of me arriving, Luke Beveridge walks in, the whole tone of the place changes. Bob Murphy steps up as captain. Peter Gordon takes a really commanding role as president. Just to see the momentum build for a club that really had been an underdog for a long period of time was an incredible journey to be a part of.
So no side ever goes into a premiership season knowing that they're going to win the premiership. What was it like in January of 2016?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a funny time. Like January and February in particular, it's really hard to gauge whether you're any good. Through 2015, I think we proved ourselves wrong multiple times, and we eventually got to a really tightly contested elimination final against Adelaide in 2015 and really saw that there was huge gains to be made. For all of us, we kind of got into that start of the 2016 and basically had the mindset of why not us? We had such faith across the board in terms of the 45 on the list, not just the 22 that run out each week.
So the finals roll around, you finish 7th. History tells us that the winner comes from the top 4. And you're in the situation where you had to win. You have to win every game. You have to win 4 games in a row if you were to hold the Premiership Cup aloft. I want to talk about the Giants. Now, post that infamous game up in Sydney, that there is born a
modern-day rivalry.
A modern-day rivalry. It's a final. You go into it expecting it to be on, but this had just that extra level of spice.
Yeah, so I left obviously the Giants in 2014, and I remember Jeremy Cameron put out a tweet, as you do. We've traded a city slicker for a pig shooter. How good's that?
Yep.
After the game that we played against Hawthorn, the semi-final, I did an interview with Emma Quayle, who's a great journalist for The Age, and at some stage in this feature piece, I must have said I had a sore shoulder, which I'd had strapped all year. I'd missed multiple games with, and I mentioned I needed to have surgery. And I walked in the day before the game against the Giants, and Stephen King and Joel Corey are sitting there looking at me in the exercise box. I'm like, oh no, what have I done? They go, you're going to get targeted. They're going to come out and smash your shoulder, first thing they'll do. I'm like, no, they won't. It's 2016, mate. They're behind that. Before the first bounce, Shane Mumford had punched it 150 times, and every other player on the team was trying to do it. Now, would I have hated to lose it? Absolutely. But to win that game, I think by 5 points with an absolute electric finish, it's basically the best game that I've ever been a part of outside of the grand final.
So the big stage, every player wants to have a moment on the grand final day on the MCG, and you had that moment, a quite pivotal one.
Yeah,
it's not a traditional big man's move what you did.
No, it was an interesting moment. I don't know how many goals I kicked from outside 50 on the run, probably one, and it was that one. For years and years as a key forward, you're getting told to push up the ground. Now, at times, Jack, I'm sure that both you and I were like, do we have to? It's not really that fun having to run all of this extra effort. The moment happens where Buddy sort of gets a ball spilled to him, Dale Morris tackles him from behind, and to be honest, I basically blacked out from there. So I remember the goal, but I don't remember really picking up the ball or even hearing the whistle that it was holding the ball, and certainly didn't consciously make the decision to take advantage, because if you're over 6'3", that's not allowed, basically. And when something like that happens on grand final day, it's so loud in there that you feel the ground shake first. You don't actually hear it. And I'm running around, and I probably didn't realise for 10 or 20 paces that Toby McLean, who, to be honest, was probably 67 kilos soaking wet at that stage, was on my shoulders.
What's it like to win it as the underdog?
I think it's one of those things where it's not real until it is, and I think that's a big part of the underdog spirit, is you just go until someone basically says you can't play anymore. That's the actual Aussie way, and that's exactly what we did in 16. First team to ever win from 7th position on the home and away ladder. First team in 62 years for the Western Bulldogs to win a flag since their first and only. It was really an amazing moment. I think it absolutely epitomises what the Bulldogs have meant to their fans, to the community and to their club, and also something that we're incredibly proud of to have been a part of in a time where things could have gone very differently for us.